so zoom in on this one. Let's make sure you get some terminology. This is a polynomial. Do you remember one of the questions on the test was like, is this a polynomial? And what would make something not be a polynomial? Yes?
If there was a fraction having exponents.
Fraction exponents, yes, or negative exponents. So I just said like weird exponents. So if there had been a negative exponent, not a polynomial. If there had been a fraction exponent, not a polynomial. But as long as the exponents are kind of normal, then we got a polynomial. All right, so that's a polynomial. And this one's a trinomial because it's got 3 terms. Does that sound familiar? Remember that? Trinomial. Okay, next one is the numbers in front, they have a name. It's on the sheet. Do you see it? What's that name? Coefficients. The number in front of the variable is a coefficient. The variable is, of course, like the x. It's the letter. That's called the variable. And last, there's one that doesn't have a variable in it. It's called, say it, constant. All right. No pass? No pass?
No.
All right.
I was looking for my jacket. I just realized I lost it. I had to go to online classes.
Okay. So next up, we're going to just remind you that this is usually like y equals all that. Okay. And then we're going to get into talking about what if we graphed them. All right. Do you guys recognize the squared as meaning it's going to have a curve in the graph? It's not a straight line. Does that ring a bell? Remember that? Okay, so here's the simplest graphs. Y equals like 2x. Do you remember that was a nice straight line and it was just had a slope of 2? Does that ring a bell? What if I said 2x squared? Now what's the graph look like? Parabola, very good. It's like this. Okay. What happens if I say like 3x to the third plus 4x squared plus 7? Ooh, they get more complicated. They basically get more curves. So something like that might look like this. Like a parabola with another parabola, and one of them is upside down and one of them is right side up. And so that's what we're going to be doing, is graphing things like that. And you'll learn how they work. Would you agree the right end is going up and the left end is going down? I can just, math, we can make it that easy. We can just say it's up, the other one's down. Okay. This end that's going up right there. The way you can tell if a polynomial is going to go up or down is you always start by on the right hand. That's like how the story ends. Okay? The right end of it. If the right end is going up, that meant that this number was positive. If the number in the front, remember this is called a coefficient. If the coefficient in the front, that would be called the lead term coefficient. If the one in the front is negative, wait, so this number here is negative? I'm going to make it negative. If that's negative, then the polynomial won't go up. Take a wild guess what it'll do. It'll go down. Okay, so if there's a negative in the front, it'll go down. Would you agree a negative in the front, negative, if we're talking about like a story, that if it's negative, that means it's got kind of like a sad ending? You know what I'm talking about? Negative and down kind of makes sense to me. So the negative in the front means that this has to end going down. I can know that about how the graph will be. If it's going down, then there's a negative in front. So let's just get that straight. So if I draw you a picture and it's going down at the end, do you get that the polynomial had a negative in front? That make sense to you? Because of the right end. I don't even care about the left end right now. Just looking at the right end. This polynomial, whatever it is, x to the fourth, or who cares, whatever it is, if it's a negative in front, it's got to be going down like this on the right. That's pretty easy, isn't it? The negative makes it go down on the right. Okay. Now, how about the left end? The left end, the other end, in this case, I can see it's going down. There's not something quite as easy to tell you which way the left end is going to go. But here's what I can tell you. The left end, would you agree there's only two choices? It'll be the same and therefore go down, or it'll be different and it'll go up. Same or different are your two choices. If this degree of the lead term, if that number, that's called the degree, if that degree is even, that'll mean the same. If it's odd, then it won't be the same, it'll be different. Odd and different kind of makes sense to me. If somebody said, I saw a gerbil riding on the back of a squirrel, riding on the back of a dolphin, you'd say that was odd, or that was different. Either way, it would kind of like work, right? Odd and different kind of makes sense to me. Even and the same is maybe more of a stretch, but if you can remember that odd ones will be different than each other. Look, this one's an even one, right? So they should be the same. Look, they're the same. They're both going down. Okay, so if I draw you another picture, everybody draw this one for me, please. It'll take 2 seconds. Make a sketch. Make it going up on the left side, but down on the right side. Got this copied? Every now and then you should be looking up at the board, otherwise you're not doing this. Then, where is there a negative on your polynomial? Phone goes in phone jail. Just put it up there in phone jail. You can have it back at the end of the hour. Dashel. Where do I know there's a negative? Okay, the end is going down, that means negative. But where in the polynomial will I have a negative? Yes, the first term will be negative. So I know it's like negative x to the, I don't know what, but wait a minute. But I do know what. Eli, can you tell because the other end is not the same, it's different?
Yeah, it's going to be an odd number.
It has to be odd. See how we can like know that? Because they go opposite ways, then it must be odd. Odd, they go opposite directions. Negative, down on the right. There's only one other thing I have to teach you, and that's this number at the end. I don't even care about the middle. It's weird, but sadly, a lot of people feel that way about Minnesota. They call us flyover country. Because if you live on the coast, that's where all the action happens. That's what they think anyways. Okay, so Minnesota, they don't really care much. It's the East Coast or the West Coast is where all the cool stuff is happening. You know, there's the East Coast rappers against the West Coast rappers, and then nobody cares about the Midwest rappers. Well, I don't know. Eminem might disagree. He came from Detroit. So back to, I don't care about the middle. It doesn't tell me anything. This tells me the right end. It's called the lead coefficient. And there's no number there, Mr. Server. There's a 1 there. Then. Okay. That tells me the right end. This tells me whether the left end is the same or different. It doesn't say up or down. It just says same or different. What does the odd number tell you? Same or different? Odd numbers, what? Odd, different. Everybody, would you please say, what does the odd number tell you? Different, different. The odd number means it's different on the other end. Okay. And then the only other thing, notice I said flyover country, we care about the coasts. That coast and this coast tell me everything I need to know about my polynomial. This one tells me the right end's down. This one tells me that odd means the ends are different than each other. And this one is called the y-intercept. Let's look at my equation. Look at how mine went through. The y-intercept was about 1. Look at that. I put a 1 there on purpose. All right. So you got to be able to do these both ways. I got to be able to give you a graph, and you got to be able to say, okay, Mr. Server, I know that one would be you know, would it be negative in the front or not? I know whether it will be odd degree or not. And I know the y-intercept appears to be like, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 or something. It's up pretty high. Okay. So everybody judge what I'm about to write here as whether I did it right or wrong. Remember, we don't care about the middle. I did some things right and I did some things wrong. Is it just totally right? No. What's something that's right about it?
There's a negative there.
There's a negative there. That negative there? Wait a minute. Does it not mean down? But it means the right end is down. That negative is messed up. Because it's going up on the right. That should have been positive. You correctly identified the thing that was wrong. All right. Nora, was my degree being odd correct? Hint, judge by the ends. The ends are going in different directions. Does different mean odd? Yes, it does. So it was to the third. And the y, what's that called again? The y what? Y-intercept was 5, and was it actually 5? Yeah, now it's correct. Why was it wrong when I had a negative here? Because it would have to be going down on the right if there was a negative there. All right, here is a typical test question on this. Y equals negative x squared plus 4x minus 2. You get to draw me the picture. Hint, make sure the y-intercept is right. Make sure it's going down on the correct end. And then make sure that the other end is either the same or different. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to compare with the kid next to you. Hint, that tells you the right. Start with that. Everything starts with the end, weirdly. Everything starts with the end. All right. So what I want you to do is draw me something like this. And I'm not saying that's the right answer. In fact, that is definitely not the right answer. Okay? Make me a little sketch like that, though. All right, in a moment, I'm going to have you compare with the person I always have you compare with, which is rows 1 and 2. It's the person straight across from you. Rows 3 and 4, person straight across from you. You two will compare. All right, like you, and then you two, and then you two compare. Okay, go ahead and compare with them and see if your sketch and their sketch could both be right. Okay, that negative, did you go down on the right because of that? Yay, you win. The negative 2, did you go through negative 2 as a y-intercept? Maybe some of you forgot that. Okay, and then it's even. That means it should be the same on the other end, which means also down over here. Did yours have all those elements in it? Okay, I personally would draw it just like this. Mine's down on the right because of the negative. Mine's down on the left because this is the same. It's telling me it's the same. Even ones, it's the same on both ends. And then it's negative 2 is the y-intercept. So that's how I drew mine. Yours could have looked slightly different, but yours had to be down on the right and down on the left and have a y-intercept of negative 2. Let's try one more to make sure you're really getting this. Y equals x to the 7th plus 5x to the 3rd plus x plus 2. Make a sketch. You know how the story ends. Always start on the right. Then think about whether it's the same or different on the left. And then include the y-intercept of 2. That's a weird looking 5. That's a 5. Pausing while you give that a shot. You're sketching what you think it might look like. Okay. So, right side. Aben, the right side is told to us by what's in front. Is there a negative in front?
No.
So therefore, it's positive. So what do you feel like the right side should do? Correct. How many of you had the right side going up? Good, then you're doing it right. Next. The left side is either the same or different than that. David.
Different.
Davis, it is correct. It's Davis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's another kid named David, so watch out for the difference there. Okay, so Davis, you said it's going down. How did you know that?
Because it's odd.
Because it's odd. That one's the key one. Remember, we don't care about the middle part. Flyover zone. Doesn't even help us tell what's going on. We can ignore it. And then the last thing I got to do is go through 2. What's that called? The what? Y-intercept. The y-intercept is 2, so it goes through here. Now, as long as your picture goes up on the right, goes through here, and goes down on the left, I don't care about the rest of it. It might be curvy, bouncy. I don't care. Doesn't matter. All right. So, how about if we go the other way? What if I draw you a picture and you have to tell me what a possible equation is for it? This one's going down. And down. Y equals, what's a possible equation? I know you don't know for sure, but you should know whether it's positive or negative in front. You should know that it's x to the, well, you got to figure out if it's even or odd. Pick one. Figure out what it is. And then last but not least, you got to know the y-intercept. Well, I never really said the y-intercept, so maybe I should tell you. That's 4. Now you can write the equation. You won't know for sure if you're right, and remember, the middle part of your equation doesn't matter. You can even leave the middle part out. I don't care. All I need is a good beginning and a good end. Okay, please check the equation that the person next to you wrote and see if it's similar to yours. Like, see if it's positive or negative, see if it's an odd one or an even one, and see if its y-intercept is right. Okay, check with the kid next to you. Yes. First, check with the kid next to you. Eli, what'd you say?
I have a negative in front.
Oh, why do you have a negative in the front?
Because the right side is going down.
Perfect. How many of you started correctly? Good. Then?
And then I have an even number for the
As long as it's even, it could be 14. It doesn't matter what degree, as long as you said even. Okay, and then what?
And then I have a +4.
And you just skipped the middle part. You can do that. Cool. Could you have made up a middle part? Sure, and I would have just ignored it. Okay, feel like you're getting this? That's the basics of how polynomials look. All right, now we need to, for some of you, this is going to be like, oh my gosh, Mr. Server, this is so easy. but there's a lot of kids in, not a lot, but there's probably 5 kids in here who have a complete retake of the last test to go over. So I'm gonna just do a little review because, hey, all of you guys are gonna have to take it on your final. Like the same problems, they're gonna come back again on the final. All right, so even those of you that got an A on it, it won't hurt you to review for a second. So we're gonna do one more of the most basic stuff. Because if you're gonna retake this test, and if a kid just got an F on the test, do you think I'm expecting them to go get a straight A on the retake? Do you think that's common to go from an F to a straight A? No. But if we can go from an F to like a C, heck of a lot better. You know what I mean? All right, so I want to just cover the basics one last time. So everybody pay attention to this. If I had 2a to the 4th and I times it by 3a squared minus 4a, would you just multiply that one out for me? In a moment, I'm going to ask you to compare with the kid next to you, and I want you to get straight the numbers multiplied by the numbers, and the variables multiplied by the variables, and you got to know what to do with the powers. You either add them, or you subtract them, or you multiply them, or divide them, but everybody get that answer. And please, right now, compare it with the kid next to you. See if you get the same thing. Remember, you guys are like a little bit through here. Kid's absent right now, so we'll have to divide this up for a minute. You guys can do that? 6a6. Okay, Riker, what'd you get?
6a to the 6th minus
Yup.
a to the 5th.
Minus 4 times 2 is 8. A to the 5th. So it looks like you think you add those kind. Raise your hand if you had that same thing. You are correct. Good. All right. Now, what about the kind where you're adding them? It's different. It's totally different. Notice I'm going to use similar things. 2a to the 4th minus 3a squared. Can you even subtract those? No, you can't. Why not? Yes?
Because the degrees are the same.
Yeah, the degrees are different. If I make this 3a to the 4th, now can I subtract them? Yeah, because they're like terms. Everybody please subtract those two and just tell me the answer. What do you get when you subtract those two? And you can use a calc. It'd be fine. Calcs were allowed on the test. I know some of you struggle with like, oh, is it 5? Is it negative 5? Is it negative 1? Is there no number at all? Write down the answer, turn, and compare with the kid next to you. Negative 1a to the 4th, or you could have just said negative a to the 4th. All right. So what if you have a negative in front of a whole parentheses? What happens to everything in there? If there's a negative in front of a whole parentheses of stuff, what do you do to them? Yes?
You multiply them all by the negative.
Yep. So this becomes negative x to the 3rd, positive 2x, and positive 7. They all become the opposite of what they were. Okay, cool. All right. So there's a little bit of review for the kids that may have to do some corrections on their test. And now let's get to your homework. So I believe you're going to find this is a really long set of notes. That's why I didn't do them. I think I covered everything you need to know. Let me actually just look at this slide. Pause here for 1 second. You don't have to go there. You can just look at the board. There's a negative in front. What does the right end do? It says end behavior. What does the right end do? Goes down. That's odd. What does the left end do? Because odd means different, right? So the left end behavior would be the opposite of down. This one went down, and it's odd, so you do it different, so it would have been up. And wait a minute, there's no number at the end. Mr. Server, you never showed us one of those. Would you agree that there's like a 0 at the end then? So the y-intercept is 0. Okay, how about this one? Positive in front, what does that tell you? Right side is up. What does that tell you? Y-intercept is -3. The fact that it's even, both sides are the same. So if it's positive here, or up, then it must be up and up. All right. So now, I'd like you to look for your homework. I believe it's a worksheet. Can anybody verify it's a worksheet?
Yeah, it is.
All right. It'll have some stuff like this on it, and you're going to be like, you never talked about that. You're right. So I want to show you right now. Do you seriously have to multiply that all the way out? No, you don't. Because remember me telling you, all that matters is the beginning and the end? The beginning and the end are all that matters. So watch me figure out the beginning of this equation. I'm going to take all of the x's. I'm going to see what they would be to the power of. If I put all those together, I got an x to the third, an x to the second, and an x to the second. That makes an x to the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would have been an x to the 7th. So do you get that's an odd one, and so the ends are different? Do you get it's positive? Did you see any negative x's? No. So these were all positive numbers. That was positive, that was positive, and that was positive, because we don't have any negatives in front of it. And then the last thing is this times this times this. Now that's going to be a big number, but you can do it. 2 times -4, what's that make? Come on, 2 times -4. -8 times 5? -40, very good. I don't care about this, and it ends with -40. See how I got those? So the pink stuff, that gave me this. And I know now that there's no negative in the front, so this would be down. No, sorry, it's positive. So it'd be positive, so it'd be up on the right. That's the y-intercept. And that tells me that it's odd, so that means the ends are different. Okay, I'll give you one more like that. X squared plus 4. Could you multiply this all out? Yeah, you had stuff like this on the, it's a weird looking 5, but it's a 5. You had stuff like this on your test. It's just a pain to multiply out. So, if I had to multiply it out though, wouldn't it have an x to the 5th as the lead term? You get how I got that? That and that multiplied together. There's a bunch of junk in the middle that I don't care about. I mean, heck, on the last test I cared, but right now I'm okay with us skipping it. And Dashel, do you know how to get the last number? This number here?
Multiply the last numbers.
Yes, so what is it?
20.
20. That's the y-intercept. It's positive because there was no negatives here or here. It's positive, that means it's going up on the right. It's odd because of that and that, which means that it is different on both ends. Odd and different need to go together in your head. Okay, now we're ready for that worksheet. Now, would somebody please read me the first problem of the worksheet? Get it open. Read me the first problem. I'm going to pause for a second while you help me with that. All right, so I have a student reading me number 1, and it's 5x squared. Sorry, my short-term memory forgot the rest. Plus 7x minus 3. All right, what do they want me to do? Because I can tell you it's going down or up on the left and the right. I can tell it's the same here. I can tell it's got a y-intercept of -3, but they didn't ask any of that. What did they ask first?
The degree.
The degree. I had a good question asked. Somebody said, do I take this one or this and this one together? Nope. You just take the biggest one. The front one, the one that's the biggest power, and they're not always in front. They should be if it's in standard form, but the biggest one, that's your degree. So this is degree 2. Okay, what's the next question, please, Rena?
The leading coefficient.
Ooh, coefficient is the number in front of the x squared. So what do you think?
5.
5 is a coefficient. Very good. It's the lead one because it's on the biggest degree. Okay, and then what's the next question?
The end behavior.
And for that, everybody put right first. I know that's weird, but right first because you got to look and see if it's negative in the front. And the other end, you'll just decide if it's the same or different. Okay, so right end is up. How many of you already had up? You were correct. And then left end. It's either the same or different. Nora, can you tell if it's going to be the same or different? Same because of what being what? The exponent's even, so it's the same. And if I write same, I'll cry a little bit and mark it wrong. I should say up because that is the same. Does this make sense to you guys? All right, I feel like you're getting it. That's the new thing for today. Eventually we'll be graphing them, but for right now we're just like describing their ends, behaviors, their degrees, and that kind of stuff. Let's just start on the next one, number 2. And we're not going to do all of them. I'll probably have you skip some, but Christian, read me number 2.
-7x, the exponent of 3, plus 3x squared,
Yep.
plus 12x.
Perfect. And what do they want to know first? Degree again? What is a degree?
3,
Yep. What's the next thing they want?
leading coefficient,
Lead coefficient. What do you think?
-7,
You are correct. And then?
the end behaviors.
And start with the right. I know it's weird, but it's the best way to go. That is down. And then you got to decide, is it the same or different than that? Veda, is it the same or different than that on the other end? Yep, because this is odd, it's different. And so the left will be different than down, therefore up. All right, I'm gonna pause for a second while I figure out which ones to skip. I better tell people at home which ones we skipped. Eli, could you help me out and tell in order, like which ones I said to skip?
4, 5, 8, 11, 13, and 15, I think.
Can anybody verify that? 4, 5, 8, 11, and 15 were all skips?
Oh, I said 13 as well.
Oh, and 13, and 15. All right, that's a lot of skips. Do your part then. The ones that I left. That I'm kind of taking a gamble here. Because if I just assigned them all, some of the kids that always do their homework, they would have had more practice. But I'm trying to give you more time in your life to do other things. And if you do all of these, it's enough. The ones I had you skip weren't really necessary. Okay. Do your part now.